Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy King Street Solid. We back with another banger, right? We're back with another video. Before we begin, make sure y'all like, subscribe, comment, share. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, share. Just do the Holy Trinity, right? Like I always say, the Holy Mount Rushmore, or the Mount Rushmore of content creators of YouTube, right? It helps content creators like me, helps me push on my algorithm, really helps me get to know more of you guys. It really helps with me my content, so I really appreciate it. Right, so I would really appreciate it, right, my content and shit. So yeah, I would really appreciate this from y'all. Um, with my content. So today, y'all, my first video. Not my first video, but what we're gonna get into, y'all, is Jason Kidd and Cooper Flagg. We're gonna get into that. So the comments of Jason Kidd, of Cooper Flagg saying never watched Jason Kidd, saying he doesn't really have much recollection, saying he really lacks research and understanding. Kid. So let's get into it, y'all. So Cooper Flagg's 19. He's young, I just turned 20. So I'm 20 and he's 19. So it's mid 2000s, babies. We never really watched Jason Kidd live. We never really did. The reason why we never really did is because we were too young to have watched Jason Kidd really play. But we did. We could have seen 2011. But let's just say Cooper Flag. Let's just take me out here, right? Let's look at Cooper Flag. Cooper Flag was born in 2006, right? It's just common knowledge that a person born in '06 would never have watched Cooper Flag play because a person born in '06 would have only been 6 or 7 when Jason Kidd retired. Cooper Flag was 6 when Jason Kidd retired since he was born in late '06. And he was only 4 when Jason Kidd won the 2011 championship. So he would have been too young to have understood or have watched basketball at that time. But here's the crazy thing. He's not even like he was born in the early 2000s or very late 90s. No, this fool was born '06, which means that he was born closer to the late 2000s, early 2000s, which also means that he was born a while, 4 years after Jason Kidd's apex, 3 to 4 years, 3, 4, 5 years after Jason Kidd's apex. That is like, and I always tell people that if you're born after a player peak, that means you probably don't watch. You watch it play, or like, unless it's like a LeBron circumstance, you don't watch it play. Kareem Kareem, depending on how you think, on when you think he peaked, you think Kareem peaked in like the early '70s and shit, which you could argue. If you think that, that's fine. But yeah, maybe LeBron and maybe Kareem. Outside of those guys, and maybe Tim Duncan. But outside of those guys, like, you're not watching great versions of players, like, because that means that either these guys have been retired or got old or started declining or became much worse or just role players by the time you were really conscious. And Cooper Flag wasn't old. Cooper Flag was literally born 2 years after Jason Kidd made his last All NBA team. He was born like some of the last years where Jason Kidd was making All Defensive Team. He was born like some of the last years he was making All NBA. He was born like some of the last years he played on the Nets. Like he was born around that time. He was born, I think, like by this time, Jason Kidd was no longer the league's best point guard. He was born around Steve Nash's peak, Steve Nash's prime, and apex Steve Nash, like mid 2000s, '05 to '07 Steve Nash. This was after Jason Kidd was winning assist titles, like I said earlier, All NBA teams, making most of his all defense and all star teams, and really going on his run. So it's not shocking that Cooper Flag does it, but like, to be fair, most basketball players who don't do the research, or most basketball players, let's just say they don't do the research, they're not really gonna know about a lot of past players. And people always like to say shocking because J.K.'s a 2000s player, and a lot of us watch Jason Kidd and shit like that. But the thing about someone like Jason Kidd is that Jason Kidd is still recent. That's why people are making these comments. And also, Cooper Flag was born in the mid 2000s, not like he was born in the 2010s. Like, if you're born, people would be shocked if you're mid 2000s, maybe that's the area where people would be shocked. That, I mean, obviously not gonna have a lot of recollection of the 2000s, but you're old enough now, like where like most of the other Jets who were born in the '90s, of us who were born in the '90s, shit, like you're old enough to have fit in that category because you're only born, like, let's just say you're born 6 years after like '99 or 6 years after 2000. Like, you're old enough to fit in that category. The problem is you didn't really watch a lot of the 2000s. So like 6 year gap may not seem big, but the gap between '99, 2000, '05, and '06 seems really big. That '99, 2000 born have made, obviously, like, know Jason Kidd. If they didn't watch Jason Kidd, they should know Jason Kidd. In early 2000s, baby, like, they watched Jason Kidd's like late career. right? They didn't watch most of J Kid's career, but they watched J Kid's like, career. So the thing about his sports are like Jake, my boy, cool. Do some research. You've been a Mavs fan apparently, or you wore Mavs jerseys and you've been a Luka fan. So you should have been a fan of that team. You should have studied your head that head coach Jason Kidd. You should have studied it because he's been coaching that team for a while. You should have even studied them when should have studied him like fucking 9 months ago when you got drafted to Dallas. Like you should have done all these things. You could have just studied Jason Kidd on your free time, watch his game, see the passing, playmaking, the defense. They developed 3 point game, the postal game. You could have seen all these things, the transition game they could have developed from Jason Kidd. But instead, now it looks like you're just someone who never really watched Jason Kidd or is not familiar. But yeah, most of it is age, and which I understand the time you're born, you can't help it. But at the same time, doing the history of the game and doing your due diligence in that department, yes, you can't help that. So I guess you could say that's a bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. Cooper Flagg is going to be an NBA phenom. He's going to be great. Let me say, yo, peace.